Greetings, happy holidays, and congratulations on a profitable quarter. Hopefully, you each got your results share check, which totaled 2.19% of our quarterly earnings. I'd also like to welcome the field sites, Woodbridge, Irvine, Dallas, Santa Clara, Chicago, and Washington, D.C., who are with us for the first time by satellite. Now, you've already heard about how we did this quarter. I don't want to repeat all of that, but instead I want to talk about our plans to achieve profitable growth for the remainder of FY94. And with us today to help with that conversation are Tim Thorstenson, Vice President of Human Resources, Carl Noyne, our CFO, John Vold, President Asia Pacific, and Dan Turpak, Vice President T&M and Telecom. They'll help by answering questions about their areas and hopefully help to paint a robust and positive view of our growth opportunities. My primary message today is that we're still operating to the growth plans we talked about last June. Nothing has changed. We've had a few disappointments, especially with regard to the general economy, but we're still on track. We've done a great job controlling expenses, so we're okay on the profitable side of the equation. Now we need to execute to our plans for the growth side, and we're ready to do that in the second half. We've got a significant new product lineups in all our IBDs, and I can't give you the details, but you'll hear much more about them in the near future. And hopefully, we're close enough to announcing some new T&M products that Dan Turpak can give us a flavor of what's happening. Also here in the audience is John Hingeveld, team leader for the Innovation Partners team. John's here to answer any questions that you may have about the IP team. Let's give all of our guests here in the studio, at our local broadcast sites, and in our field offices a hearty welcome this morning. You know, I'd like to start by asking a couple of questions of my own. First, John Vold, we have read a great deal in the recent Tech Week article about the Pacific. And I think that there are a lot of us who would like to really understand in more depth, how do we translate that phenomenal growth that's going on in the Pacific for revenue growth and earnings growth for Tektronix?
Well, the Pacific, I look at it as both the China, Asia, ASEAN areas, but also for us in the Pacific, it's Latin America, and we're getting really good growth in Latin America as well as in the China-Hong Kong region. China-Hong Kong, what we've been doing, we have had a plan in place for a couple of years on what do we have to do to grow this area. And probably the biggest part of our growth plan was to develop 3 or maybe more, so far it's 3 joint ventures in China so we can sell in the China economy in the Chinese currency. And that's going well, and through the first 6 months our China growth has been over 30%. And in Latin America, we recently, about a year ago, decided that we needed to put a growth strategy in place there as well. So we asked Dwayne Bowens to concentrate his efforts on Latin America. And in Latin America also, through the first 6 months, we've had about a better than 30% growth.
Do we have locations throughout China, or do we enter via Hong Kong?
We have sales office in Shanghai and in Beijing, and then we have distributors and representatives in another probably dozen cities in China, and we're planning to open in the next couple of months another direct sales office in Chengdu. And then out of Hong Kong, we do a lot of our distributors, we deal with them through our Hong Kong office.
Dan, how do we, with T&M, have a focus on that Pacific in Hong Kong and China. I mean, are there growth opportunities for us in that part of the world?
That's a very exciting part of the world for us. And as it relates to how we're focusing on that part of the world, we've just instituted worldwide marketing centers, one of which will be located in Hong Kong, focusing on the Asia-Pacific area. As John indicated, the Pacific also includes the Americas, so we're also looking to create a marketing center that will focus on the Americas and their requirements. The purpose of these marketing centers is to, in essence, do things to help create demand for our products in those particular regions. So they're focused very much on the region, working very closely in conjunction with the salespeople in those areas, and we think that's going to help increase our presence, increase our awareness, and enable us to have a more focused program on what represents some of the biggest opportunities we have because of the strength of the economies there.
Now, do we have marketing centers elsewhere in the world?
We have marketing centers in Europe. We also have a marketing center that we've just created in the U.S. That may sound strange that we're just creating one for the U.S., but we've done our marketing in the past in our product lines, and we've separated the functions in the marketing organization to really get an enhanced focus on both the strategic marketing that's required to get correct definition of the products up front, as well as a strong focus on the sustaining and tactical marketing to help create demand for the existing products that we've got in the marketplace.
I would add one other thing. I think also the fact that we're getting a better line of low-end products will help our Pacific opportunities a lot. That's the kind of product that sells in that region.
Yeah, that may come back. That I think I agree with John. That's a major opportunity for us. In the telecom products, as those parts of the world are investing in the infrastructure creation for communications, we're seeing right now today excellent opportunities for our telecom products, particularly our cable test products. As we look at the requirements of those markets, we see a need for what we refer to in the product line as basic instruments. A little lower performance perhaps than traditional tech products, but focused on meeting the needs of customers in those geographies for basic design, light manufacturing, education, and service requirements. So we're looking to increase our emphasis on basic instruments. We're going to do that through expansion of our activities in Hong Kong, the kinds of joint ventures John referenced earlier in China. We're looking around Asia for suppliers that we can work with that can deliver products to our requirements. You know, the right quality, the right specifications, the right certifications, yet satisfy the requirements in those markets. And we think it's a tremendous opportunity.
So it really sounds like the two of you are working close together to grow our business throughout the Pacific.
I think so.
Yep.
Well, what about here in the audience? Any questions in the studio audience first that you might have? Peggy.
Are we looking at any kind of offshore manufacturing to support these new opening markets?
In each of the three joint ventures that I mentioned, each of them are doing manufacturing, primarily right now assembly, but they are doing manufacturing.
Someone else here in the studio. Don?
With the passage of NAFTA, do we have any increased opportunities in the Latin America regions?
Very much so, and I think even without NAFTA, we had a lot of opportunity there. Our growth this year in Mexico has been 40-some% year on year from the previous year, and a lot of growth also in Brazil. And so there's a lot of opportunity in Latin America, and that's one of the reasons we put some real focus down there. Again, low-end T&M, incredible growth in GPID down there. I think we must be 45% ahead of last year in printers, and also telecom and television.
Barbara?
Is that just in sales, or is it in manufacturing also in...
Just sales in
Just
Latin
sales.
America.
Okay.
Roger?
Yes, I've heard that India has recently opened its doors a little more, and there's more opportunity there. Are we changing our approach to the Indian market?
We are changing our approach a little bit. We're planning to do a few different things with our joint venture partner. the Indian results so far have been pretty disappointing. They have opened the doors. They've liberalized some of the regulations, import regulations, and we are not doing particularly well. We're behind last year in India. So we're looking at 2 or 3 different options that hopefully will increase our business there.
Well, we have a first call in from Chicago. Chicago, are you there?
Yes, yes. This is Russ Runo. I guess this would probably be directed to Dan Turpak. Over the last couple of years, domestically, 2 industries have performed above what has been a very lackluster economy. Those industries being the automotive industry and the communications industry. A significant portion of the dollars volume sold to the automotive industry has been the industrial test products, the data acquisition systems, and FFT analyzers. There's a large opportunity pending with General Motors to implement these in their production facilities. In light of that, why does it seem like we're abandoning this portion of the market?
It's a good question for Dan.
Yeah, as we've looked at the activities in T&M, we felt we really had to sharpen our focus. When we talk about our strategy in test and measurement, we use 2 words, consolidation and transformation. The 2 aspects to consolidation. One is to consolidate and sharpen our focus within our own lines of business. Along those lines, we looked at things we were doing, and we found that we really were stretching ourselves very, very thin for the amount of resources we had, and we couldn't do justice to all those things. So we had to make some decisions and say which are the areas that we would concentrate on. What are the areas that represent our core businesses? In addition, consolidation really refers to opportunities to take advantage of consolidation opportunities that exist in the industry, the kind of thing we've started with the Advantest and Rohde and Schwartz relationships. And the third element of our strategy, the second, is transformation, and that's seeking out growth opportunities. And 2 that you've mentioned, the telecommunications area is obviously one. We think there are also excellent opportunities in the automotive marketplace. The way we're going to go after the automotive marketplace relates back to those areas that we're focusing on. We've identified as an opportunity area the electronic service tools area. And as such, we're in process of rolling out a line of products, and we're working very closely to get those products into the automotive marketplace. We're also concentrating on card modular instrumentation, VXI systems and modules that we think also will have a lot of applicability in the automotive marketplace. But we did back off from the industrial analyzers and recorders because it was a diversionary activity that we didn't have the appropriate resources to do adequately. We had to make some decisions and sharpen our focus, and that's what was behind us backing off that as well as a few other things.
Any follow-up, Chicago?
No, not that I can think of right off the top of my head. Thanks.
Okay. How about here in the studio?
What are the criteria by which we define a core business?
Within T&M, is that?
Within T&M is fine, yeah.
Sure.
Actually, I'm actually interested also generically.
Sure.
Well, a core business is one in which we have a set of competencies that match up very nicely with the requirements that our customers have in the products that they're looking for. It also, another criteria for a core business is that we've got a presence and we've got an awareness for our products and a position in the marketplace. The most obvious of our core business is oscilloscopes, where quite honestly we have a franchise in terms of the name Tektronix and a very strong position. Logic analyzers, again, place the competencies we have that we can deliver. There is, a presence that we have in that market. So those are the top level ones that would indicate core business.
From a standpoint of the entire company, we are constantly looking at our core competencies that we have throughout the company and trying to extrapolate those to growth markets that we see happening in many different areas. For example, the convergence of telephony and video and television is an area which we believe that we have not only core competencies, but products and capabilities and people that we can move towards these emerging markets in the future. So we're trying to constantly analyze where we have competencies and move those competencies towards growth markets. And we'll continue to do that anywhere that we can find opportunities for the future. Another call from Chicago.
Hello, this is Aaron Newman. I have a quick question, and you've answered most of it just in what you said. But with the emergence of these potentially very huge opportunities in multimedia, what are we doing as far as consumer products? Do we have any plans there where we're actually going to take advantage and maybe hit some really big home runs?
Would you guys like to take a shot at that?
You want me to talk? How much time do we have? There's a tremendous opportunity that's being created by the convergence of computing, communications, and television. And as it turns out, when you look at core competencies that we've got as a company, we've got a lot of core competencies that would indicate that we should be a player in going after some of those opportunities. There are also different models that you can look at for those opportunities. The computer model, which would be multimedia oriented. One would be the telephone model, which would be the video conferencing. The other one would be the television model. And with our competencies and strengths at Grass Valley Group, the TV division, some of the understanding of the technologies that we're developing, the expertise we're developing in telephony technologies in the telecom division, the networking expertise we've got in NWD, it's pretty obvious to see that we've got a lot of competencies around the company that are applicable. Turns out we have projects going on in the respective divisions oriented at addressing those opportunities. And they are not test products. They are what we're calling operational equipment products. We have a major effort underway to try to coordinate all of those activities such that we get a maximum amount of momentum and we have a sort of opportunities to leverage in the direction we're going in so that we enhance our ability to succeed there. It's a very exciting area. There's a lot of effort that's going on. Most of it may appear to be behind the scenes because these are future developments and concepts and ideas that we're fleshing out at this stage of the game. But it's a very, very exciting area. We've got some very high expectations for what we'd like to do with these opportunities by the end of the decade. And I'm sure that would be a subject for more in-depth discussion as we crystallize the program, so to speak, a bit more in the future.
And we've talked about in the past our strategic initiatives, and that's where we've lumped some of these growth opportunities. And in fact, we'll have a couple that will actually even be introduced the second half of this fiscal year. I'm personally very bullish about this second half of the fiscal year. In the first half of the year, we had 3 major product introductions or product family introductions. In the second half of the year, we'll have somewhere between 15 to 20 new product introductions or product families or strategic alliances like Dan has talked about with Roden Schwartz or Adventest that are really kicking in for a full half a year from a standpoint of revenue generation. So I think we're potentially on the cusp of really beginning to grow that revenue. We've done a lot, as I indicated at the front end, on controlling expenses, but we really need to grow that revenue to be winning in the marketplace. Any other questions? How about some questions for Tim or Carl? Get them on the hook here. Anyone for Tim or Carl? Any questions? Let me see who that is there. Tom?
I have a question not for Tim or Carl, unfortunately. It's a follow-up one. It's a follow-up one on the multimedia. Many of the things you've talked about and many of the things we read about on multimedia deal with the hardware and how you're going to have a fiber to your home and all of that. And there seems to be a sort of a gap or a controversy over what kind of software or services you'll be buying over this network that's going to be built. Are we tying into that part of it in any way, given that we've talked in the past about some sort of a software IBD also?
Yeah, the way we're looking at it, there are different elements. One is the hardware. There is hardware that's going to be required in a lot of different forms. But in addition to that, there are going to be some enablers, some of which will be software of the systems nature to make some of these things happen. And in addition, we're also trying to understand the driving applications. For example, we are in the applications business in what you may call multimedia today with our interactive distance learning capability out of the Grass Valley Group. That's a combination of hardware plus software and understanding of application. And we think that's the kind of model that we need to look at because quite honestly, Where the money may be made in the future, it may not be in the hardware. The hardware may become commodity-like as it has in the PC business. So it's very important for us to understand the opportunity in the services area in terms of software from a systems or applications perspective, as well as an application focus as well.
But even in test and measurement, in our general category of products, software is going to play an increasing role in the future.
That's true.
We have a call from Building 22.
Hello.
Hi.
The company keeps downsizing and the upper management keeps enlarging. Where is this company heading, and what are the company goals for 94 and 95?
With regards to downsizing, the company goals, or, hopefully we can, the downsizing that we've already announced, it would be wonderful if that's the end to it, but I can't make that promise to anyone. The world economies are still in a state of turmoil. We're seeing some positive results here in the United States, and as we've already indicated, in the Pacific. But Europe is still very difficult for us, especially Germany, and also Japan. And a lot of our sales, as you well know, go outside of the United States. In fact, I think, Carl, it's about 45% or so that are sold internationally. So there can be no promises made, but there's no one that wants to terminate this downsizing more than this management team. And I don't know, Tim, if you might have some comments on the top management.
Yeah, on the in general, or
in general.
No,
in general.
That's a joke, though. Relative to hiring more top management, we're in a transformation as a company. We've needed to bring some managers in to fill specific spots, like Rudy Lamprecht in Europe was recently hired, and that was actually a replacement, but we had the job open for a couple of years. But we really don't have plans to add any more senior managers in the short term. And in fact, with Rick Hill leaving and not being replaced and a few others, we think the top management team will probably get a bit smaller over the next 6 months. But there are no plans to hire any more VPs, I don't think, short term at least.
How about here in the studio audience? Barbara?
I had one question that I was asked to ask. It said, besides the tech stock that we are given to us outright, is there any tech stock involved in any of our investments in the 401k options?
No, other than the match that's being done by the company, the 2% match. That's the only element where tech stock is involved.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dennis?
I've got a question for Tim. We've got pretty clear goals as far as shareholder return, and we've said we want to be number one or number two in all of our product markets. What type of goals do we have around being an employer? Do we have a goal that we want to be one of the top employers in the country, be included in the best 100 companies to work for or whatever? And if that is our goal, what type of programs do we have in place to get there?
I think at this point our goal is to try to stabilize the business part of the company. I mean, that has to happen first, because until you've got a stable business environment that gives growth, frankly, a lot of the actions you have to take are negative towards people. So our first goal is to try to get the kinds of management team in here and what have you to stabilize the business. Longer term, I think what we'd like to be is a competitive employer, and all of the things that means. Relative to job stability and things like that, you've got to be competitive from a business standpoint. We've got to do a better job retraining our people, because business changes so rapidly today that people need to be retrained and redeployed. We have a focus in that area. We need to have a competitive pay program, and we're on a program to get there. Obviously, it's going to take another year or two to do that. But I think we're just now, as the business starts to stabilize, able to define what kind of an employer we're going to be in the long term. And all companies in America have that same problem today. I don't think any of us are going to have the expectation that we're going to go to work for an organization and for 20 years it's going to be pretty stable and straightforward, and then we're going to retire with a gold watch. I think those days are kind of over. So tech and all other companies in this country are trying to define what they do want to be and how they are going to provide a competitive place to work. Because ultimately people have choices. And if you don't have the best people, you can't compete. So we have to become the kind of employer that people choose to come to work for.
And the way that, if I could add, the way that you retain and add employees is through growth. And so our whole focus of matching core competencies to growth opportunities, is extremely important. And I think we've had 5 past quarters where we've been able to deliver increased earnings per share. But until we're able to grow that top line, and I'm hopeful that this quarter, this third quarter of the fiscal year, it will be the first in that 5 quarters that we're able to grow that top line. All of us are focused on delivering more revenue, and I think that all plays hand in hand because so many, as Tim indicated, of the companies in the U.S. and around the world are undergoing transformation. It will be those that are able to identify their own core competencies and align them to growth markets that will ultimately win, and ultimately be those companies that we want to be a part of.
I think the best model, if I look at companies out there I've been in high technology for the last 10 years, the best model is Motorola. Because there's a company that has able to transition to new markets, continue to grow, and either have a stable or increasing workforce over the last 10 years. And you go down through the list, Xerox, IBM, DEC, Apple, all these other companies have had a hard time maintaining their workforce. Motorola's done a great job. So if I could look at a model of a company that I think we should try to emulate, that would probably be it.
We have a call from Building 50.
Hi, Del. It's good to talk with you today. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Good.
Thank you. Say, what I'm calling in regards to, we've been made aware here recently of the, of the downsizing, and the buildings that we're going to be apparently keeping for Tektronix use here at the Beaverton campus. Has there been any consideration to consolidate everything here at the Beaverton campus? I know that we've had problems of selling C1. Walker Road, it's a large facility. They've indicated those types of facilities are hard to move on the market today.
Well, Carl's probably the closest to this, so we'll let Carl take this one.
Okay. You can look at this, quite frankly, when you look at space, as a company, I think we have somewhere close to 7 million square feet of space, and we probably only need about 2 million square feet of space. Now, that's kind of on a worldwide basis. So obviously there was a need to address this issue. We tried to address it somewhat in the restructuring action that we took this spring as well. The first element that we committed to was consolidation on the Beaverton campus, in which we would go for core buildings that we would clearly need and upgrade those into very good standards for the people. So no one could complain about the work environment, that it would be a good, positive area in which to work. And that's the first phase that we're implementing. Now clearly, if you look at Beaverton itself, I think there's 3 million square feet available. We could move all of Wilsonville into Beaverton if we chose to do so. We wanted to take this in steps, and there's a lot of other considerations along the way as to whether that's a good move or a bad move for the company. And right now, we're only coming to grips with that first part of it, which says, let's identify the core businesses or the core buildings. Let's consolidate down into those. Let's make those top buildings for our employees, and then let's set about subleasing, selling, or whatever it is, the other buildings that we no longer need on this campus.
How about here in the audience, Scott?
Tim pretty much hit on the survey I got when I went out looking for questions. People had anxieties of how they survive. They see how the executive board is surviving, and there's that friction there. The bottom crux of what I got out of everybody was they see the herd moving, but they're kind of out on the fringe. They don't have the real, what is a core competency? Where's the company going? What are we selling? They just see vacant buildings. Is there, I see you've got the tech tools up, is there a more aggressive way you can get the information out to people so that they know what they should be doing?
Well, that's what we're trying to do even here today, is to make sure that we're communicating enough with everyone. And you can never communicate sufficiently. But we try to do that, through Tech Week, through individual brown bag lunches and meetings within the various divisions, any way that we can to get information out and to have two-way dialogue. I mean, that's why we want all of your questions, and especially your calls from all of those of you watching outside of the studio. because we want to make sure that we have this continuous dialogue. It's always a tough one.
Yeah, I agree. It's extremely important. One of the things we found in the T&M organization is a real need to elaborate and articulate on our strategy. So, last week we had a series of assemblies, and our objective is to reach all the employees with a discussion and a dialogue. And by dialogue, I mean what Dell has emphasized, two-way communication on the strategy and the direction of our T&M business. Because we have spent a lot of time to really develop the strategy consistent with our competencies and the opportunities, and it's very, very important that all the employees, have the opportunity to hear about that, to comment on it, to dialogue on it, and most importantly, that we sort of get all of our resources aligned and moving in the same direction so that we can achieve the objectives that we want to. So the communication is extremely important, and it's something I think that we as a management team have to work very, very hard at, making sure we communicate the information throughout the organization and create an environment that encourages open communication, comments on, challenges to the strategy, because we need to tap all the resources of all the people we've got in the company. We've got a lot of good people. We need to tap that resource to make sure that we're doing things as best we possibly can.
Dan, Scott mentioned something about tech tools. Do you think you could give us a little insight or preview?
Sure. Let me get up here for a second. What we have here is a demonstration of a program that we're just in process of rolling out. By rolling out, we've been on press tours and we've told the press about this program. We've also previewed this with our distributors. And the program we're talking about is Tech Tools. We're branding Tech Tools as a line of electronic tools for service technicians and craftsmen. Electronics is becoming more and more pervasive. It's showing up everywhere. Automobiles, appliances, control systems for various industrial applications. That's creating a need and a growing need for service personnel, technicians and craftsmen to handle the service, repair, maintenance, troubleshooting, installation of a lot of these electronics-oriented systems. What those people need are tools to enable them to be more productive. So we've put together a program, the flagship product of which is the Tech Meter, which has been internally codenamed Quartz, that we're rolling out, but we're not just rolling out the Tech Meter. We're not just rolling out a product. We're rolling out a program, a family of tech tools that includes not only 3 versions of the Tech Meter, but a series of handheld DMMs, supporting accessories, and we're putting it together in a program which consists of not only the products, but a lot of new marketing and merchandising and distribution approaches for us, certainly in the T&M business. What you see here are some of the merchandising materials in terms of consumer-looking packages, because these products will be sold primarily through distributors at retail as well. You see a point-of-sale purchase piece where someone can go up and without any additional help run through a demonstration of the product to understand its capabilities. You see also a poster. We've got a lot of other merchandising materials, collateral materials to meet the requirements of this distribution channel and effectively communicate the capabilities of the product to the potential end users. We view this as a major and significant opportunity for us in the T&M business, and quite honestly, what you see here is just the start of what will be an ongoing flow of products under this banner of Tech Tools to address the growing requirements for this increasing number of service-oriented personnel that need tools to help them do their job better. Now, we've also characterized what we want to deliver in this class of product by focusing on bringing intelligent tools to the marketplace that enable these people to do their job better. The reception to date is very, very exciting. We go public with this 1st of January, and already we've gotten very, very good interest from our distribution channel, and we're very, very hopeful as to what this will do for us.
So do we have to be quiet between now and the 1st of January, Dan? Or?
Yes, but not too quiet. We can use all the help we can get to get the word out as to what this represents and how excited we are about it. We want to transfer that excitement to potential customers. So tell your friends, and we'll just create some anticipation for when the news actually hits the streets.
John, does this help in the Pacific?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, worldwide, I think the entire international distribution organization is looking forward to getting their hands on these tools. I think for one thing, we do a lot of distribution through distributors, and the more products we can provide to these people, the more interested they are in working with Tektronix. And in the past, our offering has been just too weak to get a lot of attention. Now we're going to get a broader and broader offering, and we'll get a lot more interest from distributors worldwide.
Good point. Call from Irvine.
Good morning, Del. This is Mike Franzi here in the Irvine field office.
Hi, Mike.
Question about, from the panel maybe, some of the hurdles, timeframes that are required for Tektronix to transition our information systems into a more state-of-the-art, more user-friendly tool set, order processing, sales results, and trend analysis. Comments, please.
Well, I tell you, we just, Carl Noyne, again, has that area of responsibility, so we'll turn it over to Carl.
How you doing, Mike?
Doing fine, thanks.
Good. Yeah, if you look, I'll talk about IS in a couple of ways. One, from a user point of view, in general, it's not only in the sales and marketing side, but I think in most of the corporate areas today as well, is we've got a lot of old systems that are our own. They started off as purchased application packages, and we customized them so damn much that we're the only ones that can support them in the world. When we went to the factory systems a couple of years ago, the idea was to build on a vanilla system and to run those applications through the house so people could move from organization to organization, have the same skill set, and again, the maintenance of those programs basically be on the outside, not so much on the inside. We have one more division, TV division, implements, and it's either January or February on QAD there, okay, and we'll be complete with that side. The next focus areas are really twofold. One is on the order management side. And we've got a big effort going on in Europe associated with this now as we concentrate our distribution efforts in a European distribution center, which requires a total remake of our systems, a lot of those being the whole customer fulfillment side. They're about to make a selection again that's QAD oriented. There were two real possible solutions for us in QAD. Looks like it's going to be the best. We are now moving forward here with the order management side as well, and I believe we also will go QAD. Now, this is an important message that comes out of this thing, because one of the problems we've had in the past in coming to grips with a system like order management is that everyone wants their piece to be the best. And the fact of the matter is that we're going to have to implement vanilla, okay, to a large degree. And so everyone's not going to be able to have the best, and I'll use my own case, the best AR system or the best AP system or the best silo, but it's got to be a total contribution, okay, to the organization. And as a result of that, I think it'll make everyone's job easier as opposed to cumbersome, which we've managed to do quite well over time. We are targeting to have GPID up and NWD up by this summer, okay, and I think Bob Vance is targeting for all the other organizations to have those up in the November timeframe, so that we don't have to write any complicated interfaces now for the new European systems into the U.S. system. So they're coming. The second element, the other element of that is the financial systems, which I intend to have entirely revamped again by the end of next year, in the sense of the calendar year as well. And with that, we will have accomplished the core systems. There's lots of other little pieces, but the core systems will be done. This will be exciting for a lot of reasons. One, everyone will have the right tools to work with, and two, it'll just cost us a hell of a lot less to maintain new modern tools than it does today to maintain old antiquated ones.
John Hingeveld, we were talking earlier about communications. How in rolling out the Innovative Partners concept, have you any reactions? Will we see some employee involvement from a standpoint of helping to even open communications processes?
I think we will. We've seen a lot of inputs already from across the company, from the field, as you've seen here, and from all the different IBDs. People have ideas to save money, to improve their processes, to new product ideas. People want to communicate, and they want to know who to talk to, and they want to understand their role in the company, and by reaching out through IP, they're beginning to get access to that. I'm very excited by the involvement we've had so far and the commitment that we've had gotten from management and the employees to work with us in developing these contacts.
And when does it actually roll out? Is it in process, or?
Our rollout was December 10th with the Tech Week article, and we'll be putting out the next phase of stuff in early January with the development of the This Worked Here and Wanted concepts further.
So it's just any kind of suggestions or recommendations as it pertains to individuals in doing their jobs, or?
Really any positive suggestion for change in pretty much any area. New products, new processes, ways, things that your organization does well that you'd like to share with other parts of the company. Really any positive suggestion for change. And if you have one, 685-IDEA is our voicemail box, please. And we can be reached through email are the two major ways to get us, and it's IP ideas on the Banyan network.
So 685-IDEA. Okay, good. How about questions here in the audience? Jane?
I'm from the National Marketing Center, and this year we're going to touch somewhere in the neighborhood of about 500,000 customers. And one of the things we see is that customer expectations are changing rapidly. They don't want to wait 6 to 8 weeks to receive a product that costs $1,000 to $1,500. And we see our inability to deliver products as one of our biggest competitive disadvantages. We're not losing to the competitors because of the product, we're losing because we can't deliver it. How do you see that, and what's being done?
That's a good one.
I agree with you, Jane. One of the things that is going on relates to how we're looking at our manufacturing. We just did a study with a consultant looking at manufacturing within Tektronix, and interestingly enough, one of the things they came back and highlighted was not so much manufacturing per se, but the total demand fulfillment. You know, all elements and aspects of satisfying the customer's requirements. And I think they've pointed out to us the same thing that you've just said, is that this is becoming increasingly important as a competitive factor. They've had some good suggestions. We've got, I think, the opportunity to really look into not only their suggestions but ideas that we've got of our own. But there will be efforts to look at this in total, not just manufacturing, but the total aspect of demand fulfillment. Order entry, order processing is an element. So there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of interest, and I think half the problem or half the battle is understanding if you've got a problem or where you should concentrate your attention. And I think that's been pointed out not only by customers but also by this internal study that we've done. So there will be some focused effort on it.
One of the areas that we've got to get much better in is concurrent engineering and development, so that it's not sequential, one product after another. And if you've got a cycle of 12 to 18 months to get a product out, it's just not fast enough. But if you can have 2 or 3 products going at the same time, concurrently, leveraging what's happening with the other product, we can move at a much more rapid pace, and the customer base would see more frequent product introductions or revisions. We have a call from Building 58.
Hi, I have a question regarding the tech tools that were shown recently, the handheld DMMs, it appears. I just wondered, I was curious whether those devices were designed at Tech, are they manufactured at Tech, or are we buying someone else's product and putting our name on it?
Dan?
The line of handheld meters we currently have are products that we've acquired from an offshore supplier, and have put our label on them and are doing the distribution and marketing of those products. As we look forward, we're looking for ways that we can differentiate those products in the competitive marketplace in ways other than just the Tektronix logo, which is a differentiation of sorts. We're very interested in getting products, as I mentioned earlier, in this line, the line of tech tools that represent intelligent products that enhance productivity, that represent the quality, that represent what customers want. So to date, they've been products that we've primarily OEM'd. In the future, we're looking to put a little bit more of our flavor in those products by working closely with the suppliers who are primarily offshore suppliers.
But going forward, Dan, isn't it fair to say that we've got to have a right balance and combination of products that we're developing in-house as well as that which we're partnering with? I mean, we can't do it all in-house.
All right. We've developed the tech meter, but the tech DMMs were what I was referring to. And as I mentioned earlier also, this is just the start. There will be a lot more products that come in this family, and those products will have that balance, some of which will be developed internally, but we need to leverage other resources to broaden our offering and do that in the right way.
So the tech meter itself, though, is developed here and will be produced here as well.
Yeah, tech meter is internally developed, will be manufactured internally as well.
We have a call from Building 74.
Yes, hello. This is primarily for Tim. I'm wondering what initiatives the management team is putting in place to keep and improve our written and verbal references to customers' employees to be more consistent with our commitment to diversity. For example, to remove sexist language and to make sure that we're looking at our customers from a diverse way.
At our customer base, frankly, we don't have anything in place today to do that, but it's something we do need to look at. Okay. Specifically to the customers, though.
Well, to customers and also to employees.
To get them to be more compliant.
To get them to be more compliant, but also in terms of our references to employees, making sure that we call our employees, he or she, or use a generic, and also in our written communications, making sure that, for example, on today's broadcast, we're talking about craftsmen instead of craftspeople. Making sure that our language is gender neutral as much as possible.
Well, I think we can all be more sensitive to that. I mean, it starts with each one of us, and certainly, there are old habits that are hard to get rid of. But if we're all sensitive to the fact that we need to move this direction, I think it will be very beneficial for all of us.
Right.
Thank you.
Any questions here in the audience? Lee.
Well, it's my understanding that the Soros Group had put a deadline, if you will, in for March of '94. So the question is, first off, is there such a deadline? If so, what is it? What will they be looking at? What will their measurements be of Tektronix at that time?
Well, there was an 18-month standstill that we're still in, and it's my understanding that that is over with in the March time frame of '94. I think that we have shown over the 18 months that we can certainly deliver operating performance to the bottom line. The thing that we haven't shown is our ability to grow the top line. So that certainly is an open part of the equation. To be able to come up with a guesstimate as to what might happen, I don't think there are any of us that would feel comfortable in doing that because we just don't know. All I believe that we can do is continue to perform in the way that we're performing and begin to grow that top line. And I think many of the fact that our shareholders are concerned about our performance will go away if we're able to deliver and on a continuous basis. Carl, do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
No, you've done it.
We have a call from Dallas.
This is John D. in Dallas.
Hi.
How are you, sir?
Good.
Many of our customers operate globally. We don't appear to. What are we doing to address this situation as it applies to pricing, support, delivery, and so forth?
Well, I'll let John take that, but let me just echo your concern because it is one of the major areas of concern that we've had as a management team, and that's why I focus so much of our attention on the Pacific and put John Vold in as president of Asia Pacific, and also went out and hired Rudy Lamprecht for Europe to be president of Tech Europe, because we just need to look at everything from a geographical or country standpoint and not just from Beaverton or Wilsonville, Oregon. And so we need that influence. 45%, as we said earlier, of our revenue is outside of the United States. So they need to have input into the products and directions that they need to be able to satisfy their customer needs globally. John, you want to take it from there?
Yeah, I think the question, as I heard it, was what are we doing to make our offerings more attractive to multinational companies. We do have multinational contracts with a number of companies, particularly in Europe, and the pressure on us has been primarily on price. And one of the things we're doing, and I think probably a little bit overdue, is developing more of a worldwide price and less geographic differences in our pricing. We're finding that many of our customers can buy anywhere in the world. If they're located in Japan, they can buy as easily in the U.S. or in Europe. So, and we're also finding a little bit of a gray market developing because of our pricing problems. So we have started a pretty aggressive look at developing worldwide pricing, and I think we're making progress. We need to make a little more programs in place. Hopefully we'll have it taken care of in the next few months.
But beyond pricing, I think there are a lot of actions that we're attempting to take to be perceived as a much more global company. Carl, do you
I
have
was about to add to that. When Rudy Lampert was here last week, this is one of the issues that he talked about, whereas in Europe, we've typically been organized and run with a country orientation associated with it. And you may have had a large customer who's the French will be competing for that business. Our own tech people in France, our Germans, et cetera, competing for. And one of the things that he's changing, among many things, is to put more of a customer focus and less geographic focus on it. So there's marketing centers that cover all of Europe, whether it's T&M, GPID, et cetera, in this focus. And you'll have a major account focus on that side as well, so that we're looking at treating those customers who have a presence in Europe, in this case, in many, many countries on the same basis, same service, same pricing, and trying to get their needs through one set of people as opposed to competing for those services. And that's the same type of approach that we'll need to develop around the world. And if you've got some customers that need this, raise your hand, come forward, okay? I'm sure that everyone would be happy to make sure that their problems are solved and there's opportunities created. So come forward with those ideas.
And we'll try to get Rudy here for our next telecast. I want to make sure that you guys can see and hear from Rudy so that you know where his head is at and what he's trying to accomplish in Europe. How about some questions here from the studio? Kathleen.
How are we doing in the East European market?
How are we doing in the East European marketplace? John is probably the closest to that, even though he now has the Pacific. Before Rudy was on board, he had all of the rest of the world. So, John?
What we found is, in the last year or two at least, is the East European market has really been slow. Most of those countries, as you know, are going through a lot of domestic turmoil, and we were just starting to see a sort of a ramp up. And when we signed the agreements with Rohde & Schwarz, we found that Rohde & Schwarz had spent a lot of money developing infrastructure in the East Bloc. So we, as part of our agreement with them, they now distribute our products, TV, telecom, and T&M products in the East Bloc for us. And in addition to using their infrastructure, they've also signed up all of our distributors in that part of the world. So we have the same distributors we had before, plus the Rohde & Schwarz distribution organization. And I think we'll see a real upturn in that business in the next 6 months, next year.
I was just recently in East Berlin, now Berlin, and I was struck by the fact that there's so much that's required in basic infrastructure build, like cement and asphalt for roads and telephone lines, that it's hard to understand how quickly, East Germany and the consolidation will be able to come back, and of course that impacts us and the entire German economy, because it will take a while, I think, to get any level of parity in that German economy. It's a good question. Someone else, Mike.
Yes, about a year ago in an article in Tech Week, you mentioned that the importance of growth, just as you've just said. You also mentioned cost reduction, which we've done a good job in. And you mentioned partnerships with outside companies, and we've obviously done well in that. The other thing that you mentioned was teamwork. And one of the things that, in addition to the growth of the top line you're talking about we have coming, that relates to, just as you said, concurrent engineering and some of the other things, is the concept of teamwork, cross-functional teams and concurrent engineering and other things we're doing. Those aren't that visible right now, and do we have anything going on to get more teamwork within the company?
Well, we're doing it, Mike, in lots of different ways, and each one of the gentlemen up here can talk about that. But as one that really comes to mind is an engineering council that we've just recently put in place maybe 3 or 4 months ago to begin to go across IBDs, to make sure that we're not reinventing the wheel within each IBD, that we're working together to solve major issues and problems, and new introduction process and cycles, as an example, with each, in a team environment, with each one sort of bringing their unique ways to the party. And that's one way that we're trying to promote teams. Also, I think John could talk about the fact on the innovative partners, of bringing a team of people together to work on that from a standpoint of a grassroots effort to get everyone involved in new ideas and suggestions. Those are 2 examples. Tim?
Yeah, I think the video telecommunications strategy is a good example of pulling a team of people together from various business units in the company to try to figure out what our broad strategy should be. In Grass Valley, we've launched 6 teams around operational issues that we need to focus on and improve. So we did a survey of that recently, and what we found out is there's a lot of team activity going on in the company. It's just not, it's done in different ways in different organizations, and it's not visible at the top level as we'd like it to be. So,
but that may be a good idea for a Tech Week article,
right,
to just show the kinds of teaming that's going on in the company. Well, we've got time for maybe 1 or 2 quick questions here from the studio audience. Bob?
With the renewed emphasis on working with distribution and our distributor partners, as I listened to the conversation, we're concerned about communicating really well with our internal people within Tektronix. We have newsletters going to our distributors within T&M to communicate new products and information, but it's just as difficult to communicate to those partners about where tech's going, the commitment to those distributors. What kind of actions can we do, or ideas to strengthen that partnership with our distributors within T&M and within the company?
Well, it's a great question, because we have not done a really good job in communicating externally. And Carl and I talk about this a lot, just based upon the volume of stock that gets purchased on a daily basis. So we have put forth an effort to really look at our entire communications process externally, as well as internally. And I don't know, Tim, you might want to talk a little bit about Shelley and what she's...
We've hired a vice president of corporate communications, and we've recently, as a company, hired a new PR agency to help us, and they're currently working with Dell and Carl and Jerry and each of the independent businesses, and we'll be lining a more externally focused communications plan coming into the new calendar year to position Tektronix.
I'd also like to say, last week GPID had a product rollout for 2 of their new products, and it seemed to me that at least half of the people in attendance were distributors, and from all over the world. We had distributors from Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, South America, South Africa. Big turnout of distributors.
That was a good point, because I think I met all of them the other evening at the GPID Awards Banquet. Well, listen, I appreciate all of you being with us here in the studio audience, as well as in the individual buildings in Beaverton and Wilsonville and all 6 site locations throughout the U.S. Have a happy holiday season and a safe and hopefully a very profitable new year for all of us. Thanks, Doug.